Why do I have a strange feeling when they built this game back in whatever year it was, they didn't use a Robertson wood screw in the mechanism? Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Russians, welcome to the channel. What we have here is a Gottlieb Sky Jump. This is an electromechanical game. I haven't worked on one of these on the channel. I don't think I've ever done an EM. I haven't had one of these in a long time to work on, so that's why I haven't made a video. But what we're going to do with this one is I'm going to go through it. We're going to see if we can get it running. This is the condition I got it in. The backglass is being removed because I'm working on it, restoring that. I'll show you that in another video. And I thought, you know what, this might be a fun one to look at. So let's look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. First thing we're going to do is just give it a general overview. I'm going to lift the playfield, make sure there's nothing broken. I'm not going to show you or teach you or learn you or anything like that. I'm going to go through the process I go through when I get EMs to get them up and running. But like I said, first, let's check to make sure there's fuses and everything that are good, so nothing burns up when we start this thing up. I bought it from a gentleman that said it was working, and yeah, it was working. The definition of working was basically the ball would jump in the shooter lane, you would launch it, the flippers flipped, the drop targets dropped, all the lights were on, but it didn't really do what it was supposed to do. So let's see if we can get to a condition where it works to what we consider a working game. Okay, let's lift up the playfield. Let's see what kind of goodies we got floating around in here. Let me just put up the playfield stand. Give me a second here. Okay. All right, what do we got going on under here? It's pretty clean. Everything looks to be complete. I don't see any missing coils. I don't see anything that's extremely vulgar by any means, like nothing burnt, nothing looks like it caught fire, anything like that. Let me just get a flashlight here. Yeah, so nothing offensive anyway. Okay, I didn't even lift the playfield when I got it, to be honest with you. So that's, you know what, it's dirty, but it's not disgusting. Let's agree on that. Okay, before I put it down, looks like the fuses are good. I want to talk about the goodies you always find at the back of a game, especially when you transport it, all the dust and dirt and all that stuff that collects in the back when you lift it up. I always, don't go crazy when you first get a game, start vacuuming. Look for, this is a good idea of how you can get some evidence on what might be going on with the game. So here's what I pulled out. So we've got a bolt, but here's the one I want to show you. Right there. Right there. Okay, now this could help us diagnose any issues we might be having that we can't figure out. So if we look on the Jones plug, I'll get you a better angle. I'm just gonna chuck this now that I looked at it. We got some broken glass. So maybe it's had a playfield glass replaced sometime in its lifetime. A couple of missing screws, missing connectors, things like that. So that's what we're gonna go through when we look at the playfield. So let me just bye to that. But those Jones plugs right here, you can already tell that, you know, this one here has come off where it's supposed to be. I think you can see that, right? Right there, yeah. So it should be on top of there. We might find a couple other ones. So anyway, that's what's going to help us diagnose the game. But like I said, we're going to go from front to back. Fuses appear to be okay. So let's put the playfield down. Let's plug it in and let's see what happens. Okay, first problem we noticed, the ball shot in the flipper lane the second we turned the game on. Now the flippers flip and it does make a chime noise. However, do you hear that ding diddling ding? Not all the chimes are working. And the score wheels aren't resetting. Now, as far as the drops go, they do work, but they're not giving the proper score when they drop. So let's see if the game does end. So if we look at this 5 miles up, we have a game that flips, we have a game that chimes, well, at least one chime does, and the reset targets work. So technically, yeah, it is a working game. What we don't have are proper scoring, some solenoids not working, the score reel's not resetting, the ball popping out when you first start the game, and just a whole bunch of sundry items that don't seem to want to work. So let's get into it. Go from top to bottom and see if we can get this puppy working like it should. Like I mentioned, here is the Backglass for the game. It's pretty cool, I guess. Sky jump, sure. But the back, as you will see, has seen better days. It's scratched in the typical red coming off. So if I shine the light, you can see where it's not bad, but again, it's not perfect, that's for sure. So I don't know how to do it, but if you scroll around my videos, you'll see the video I did to reproduce the Backglass, and it came out quite amazing, if I do say so myself. So just scroll around, look at my other videos, and I'm sure you'll find it. For checking the game before initial turn on, should include checking all your coils to make sure they're working, or to make sure they're not shorted. The way we're going to do that is a multimeter. You can put it on ohms. Okay? You're going to grab your leads. Try to do this one-handed. Every coil in the game, you're going to check. All right, if it's 0 to 3, you got problems. The ones you're not going to like are in the game. Okay? Don't take a shortcut here, guys. Check the coils. All of these ones, these are all coils. Then you want to check, obviously, the big ones. And you'll find that, like, this coil here should have the same reading as this. So look at this coil here. Very well worn, very well used, but when you test it with your multimeter on the ohms, you're going to test it, and we're going to see what kind of reading we got. So you can see how it's all crunchy, right? But showing 23.7, that's perfect. If it's completely shorted, you're going to get pretty close to 0. All right, so test each one in the game. I'll show you some score reels you're going to check as well. Our relays checked out. The coils, I should say, they all checked out. Nothing burnt. Nothing to concern ourselves with at that point. Now let's go through all the components. And I'm not going to fix anything just yet. I'm just going to make notations of what we need to look into, what we might need some information on. If you have schematics and you know how to read them, awesome. I don't have the schematics for this game, but I find with the wedge heads, these Gottliebs, they all follow the same rhyme and reason as to how everything works. So when you start getting comfortable working on them, you can get away without having the schematics in front of you. And I'll show you case in point with a couple of things as we go through it. So this is the score motor. This thing's working. I know it's working because as it was tripping relays and stuff like that when we were playing it, it was scoring, it was chiming, so let's call this good for now. So now for each one of these relays here, what you want to do is just physically, very carefully, you want to move it, okay? Moving is a good sign. If it's stuck, we got a problem. Okay? Because what you're doing is you're actually activating the switches in it, and I'll show you in a sec. All right, so all of these move very well with the exception, and I've already gone through this obviously, but the hold relay, this thing's not moving at all. Okay, but the coil check good. So I'm thinking that some of these came off. I'll take it out and I'll show you how we're going to fix it. And I think it was, yeah, this one here. You can see it's not moving, unlike this one. Okay, see how that's moving? This one is like fixed in place. It's not going anywhere. So we're gonna take that baby out and have a quick look to see what might be going on with it and see if we can help its cause. Here's a video of how the contacts work. A little easier to see. I thought I would show you how a relay and a coil works in the game. So basically what happens is when the coil sucks in, magnetizes, it pushes this down, it pulls it down, and it either makes these little switches open or close. So part of your process to get one of these games working is you want to make sure all of these things are touching where they should be, open where they aren't, and clean when they do touch. So some of this just makes plain sense. So if you look at this one, looks like that should be closed. This one should be closed. This one should be open. So when it sucks in, now if you look, this one looks, this is open, this is closed. What's that one doing? Now that one's closed. Okay, it kind of makes sense. If it's open and you pull it down and it closes, makes sense, doesn't it? Same thing here. If it's closed and you pull down and it opens, then that makes senses too, right? Makes senses, yeah. And this one's open and you pull it and it's closed. Same thing for the back. Oh, okay, this one's a good one because this is called a make or break switch. So it is, let me just get my bearings straight. Yeah, so it is closed on this side and it's open on this side. And the second it, the relay, the solenoid energizes, bang, it goes open on this side and closed on that side. Okay, so you can just barely make out how it's open here. Okay, now part of your job is to clean them. This is just a sandpaper file that I made. I basically took sandpaper, I put wood glue in it, I put it between two sheets of, in a book, I let it dry, and I cut strips, okay? So again, part of your process to clean these things is very simple. So I'm going to make sure we get it in between the contact. Okay, and close it, do whatever you want. Give it a quick clean, done. Okay, open, close. Same thing here. This one's open. Okay, this one's open and it'll close when it pulls down. So you can pull it down. And that's it. Make or break. And the same down here. Okay, now to adjust, again, you're going to use this tool here. You're going to get in, and you're just going to tweak it if it looks like it's not doing what it's supposed to. This is actually adjusted really well because it's open, it's closed, and then it opens when it's supposed to. But if it's not closing, for example, let's say it was like this. So it's not doing anything. So you want to close it. And then when it opens, you get the open contact. Close, open. And you can see the leaf moving too on the close part, right? Just barely. Okay, so promise me you're going to go through every switch on the game. It looks daunting, but it should take you probably an hour. Do not adjust every switch. If you're adjusting every switch, you're going to screw something up. So just be cautious if you have to put glasses or a magnifying glass on it to see it. But again, it just kind of makes sense. Closed, closed, open, pull down, open, open, closed, right? See, it just kind of makes sense. And make sure you tighten the screws. As far as everything up here goes, everything's moving as it should. Okay, a lot of times with these games, the problems are anywhere that's got a wheel, a cog, something that rotates. People put like grease in them. The grease solidifies over time and it won't let it do its thing. But this is working just fine. Okay, no wires are off. And everything appears to be clean. One thing with this game, somebody I think really cared about it because all the rubbers, they're all in really good shape. So it must have lived a pretty decent life anyways once it was taken out of circulation. So that's one thing to check for as well when you buy a game. If the rubbers were all brittle, broken, falling off, things like that, then you know it's been sitting around for a while. These games like to be played because when the relays touch, they actually overlap and they clean themselves. And that's what keeps these things going. So we've got a couple things over there that I want to look at. Now let's look at the back here. All right, let's see if I can. Oh. So, I want to show you something. See how slow it is to move? Oh, it barely moves, right? You actually have to help it. So this will need some attention. It's actually built so we can tilt it down to service it. This has got this legendary screw in there. So obviously there's some monkey business going on here. But I don't know if you noticed when we started it, the score reels were kind of lazy. A couple of them didn't really want to do their thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it a little easier on us. We're going to take these two screws off. And then we'll pull the whole assembly down. These assemblies, we'll take them right out. The way you take them out, it's a little, see they're locked in. Okay, but you pull back this tab and you pull them out. Okay. You want to be careful. There's a lot of wires going on here. There's a lot of relays, or sorry, not relays, there's a lot of fingers going on where things have to make connections and stuff. What I wanted to show you is this thing was a little sloppy, a little lazy on the return. So see, it's not returning. I'm pulling basically the plunger here. You just pull it and that's what advances the wheel. But if I help it, it'll click. Okay, so it seemed to get stuck around now. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take apart and we're gonna service it. And again, with the inspection, you want to make sure, especially on the score reels, they need to go to 0. Historically, they need to go to 0 to get the thing to go, but we want to make sure that all the, I don't have the best light. I might take the head off and do this in my workshop downstairs, but we want to make sure all the relay switches are in good condition and clean. Okay, so that's our overall general review of the game. Let's get our hands dirty and start cleaning things. Okay, let's get into it. Clean the Jones plug. This is step number 1. See how this is nice and clean? See how this one's got all this corrosion on it? This could cause a lot of grief with you and your game, so make sure you clean the male end and the female end. 220 gram sandpaper, whatever you can use. I find once these are clean and you seat them in the receiver, it typically cleans this as well. It'll solve half your issues with non-working lights and things of that nature. So do all of them, not just the one in the back of the head. Do them under the Playfield and everywhere. I'm gonna start with the obvious. I want to resolder parts that we know should be there, like this piece here. This one's ready to break too, so let me solder it while I'm here. No, didn't catch. It's too dirty. I'll have to go back in, wait for it. Broke off, and what they did is they just soldered it direct onto the Jones plug. Okay, here's the issue with doing that. You can't technically remove this thing to disassemble the head to take the head off, because this is going to go in there, and see how it doesn't have a shroud. So they just directed it right here. I'm going to come up with a better solution. So just bear with me on that. But in the meantime, I'm just going to check. Okay, all the rest are fine. And look underneath as well. Okay, those are fine as well. So let's just put this back on. All right, let's switch it up a bit and work on the score motor. What I have for tools is pretty slim. I just have a leaf bender, business cards. Do not use anything harsh on these switches because they're very delicate. Some guys are going to say, hey, why don't you use contact cleaner? Don't really need it. I don't, like, if you're adjusting all the contacts, you're doing too much. I'm going to tell you right now. So let's get this thing out. Remember, pull out the tab, pop her out. All right. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take out the screws that hold these wires, just to give me some more runway on this one. And then I'll be able to play around with it a bit easier. The screw back in just so I know where it goes. All right, makes it a little easier. Okay, so first things first, let's remove the clip. And make sure you find it when it goes flying like it just did. Silly me. Have a suitable container to put everything in. Okay. Now I'm going to take these two screws out. Be careful when you lift. Okay. So, I think you can see what's going on here. All this is copper, and it all feeds through these traces to all the switches, and then to these pads that rotate and just connect the dots. So we're going to take this out. Okay, I'm going to put it here. And we're going to take out the score reel. Best opportunity, time to clean it. Take out the score reel and take out this puppy here. This one is really clean. But sometimes these things are just encased in grease, and it just doesn't let them do what they're supposed to do as far as sliding goes. Okay, so we're just going to keep everything sort of together. We're going to start cleaning everything. So, look what happens here. This moves up and down flips the score wheel around. And when it gets to a certain position, you'll see it here. See how they're raised? See how it's got this? I think you can see it. See, it's grooved. When it gets to the high position, that's when it knows that it pushes on this, and then these things should be closed. Open, 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 bang, the middle one closes. You see it? So it's just strumming along, do, bang, closed. That lets it know where it is. So I'm looking here. Actually, I put some glasses on. We're just going to clean them all up. There's some loose wires here. Make sure we take care of that. Okay, and then this too. Ah! We got a bit of a problem here. Look. Missing. It's broken. Okay, so we're going to have to find one and replace it with it. In the meantime, I'm going to clean it. What I'm going to clean this with is, don't use steel wool, because it's going to just leave traces everywhere. You can use a nice sandpaper, like a 600, or you can use those Scotch-Brite pads, and I think that's the way we're going to go with this. So I'm going to go get a Scotch-Brite pad. Let me see if I can find one of these out of my hoard of parts, and I'll bring you right back. What do you know? I happen to have another score reel, which happens to have the piece we're looking for. So I'm going to take it off here, graft it on there, and I'll show you how. Perfect. Take off the broken one, fit this one in, and then solder it all together.
Yes, I know this is a sketchy way to handle a knife, but I'm what you call an expert. LOL.
Here's the busted, the broken one. Here's going to be the good one. Now, one thing that might be different is the way this is bent. Might go the other way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use another one as an example. And this one's broken too. So let's go on to the other one. I don't know what's going on with these, why they're broken. But again, if they're broken, we know that it's not going to work. So this one's good. Okay, it's complete. And it's bent in. Yeah, it's got the same bend to it, so we're okay. And I'm also going to use this as the example for the stacks, which way the stacks go. that's going to happen like that. Remember, this is a piece we're going to solder. And we got this. Can you see? Yeah, you can see what's going on. See these switches here? This closes. Touches the leaf, opens it. See it? No, you can't. My fat finger's nowhere. We're looking right here. Solenoid fires, touches the spring, it opens. See, now it's closed. Now it's open. You can see that one deflecting just a bit. That tells me it's making contact. Now here's the deal. Because this was broken or missing completely, this switch never closed. So, and the same with the second one that we just noticed was broken. So to that end, it's inspection, fix what we know is broken, and then we try the game again. Okay, so now I'm just going to shut you off for a second. I'm going to go get that Scotch pad that I was talking about. I'm going to shine this up, and we're going to clean everything up. And we will put it back together, and we'll test it. And I'm also going to check these switches here. Oh, I might as well do that now while I got you guys. All right, what's the situation here? When it reaches 0, okay, if we look at it, it's going to have a natural, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a makes sense. So if you look at these two, see how these are closed, these are touching, these are open, these are closed. Watch what happens. Watch. The second this thing zeroes out, it hits the detent on the wheel. Right, it hits this part on the wheel. It pushes this. Oh, look what happened. These open, these close, but watch these ones. Look at that. They're still closed. They're closed there, and they're still closed. So I suspect that this should be open and then go to close. Okay? Because that seems to be what the other ones are doing. Okay, so we're just going to move this. Now let me see if I have one. Guys, this was such a shame. These spares that I got, you see they're all wrecked. They were in an area, they were in a bucket, in a shed. I'm not lying to you. The shed leaked right into the bucket. And guess what? Now all I got is a pile of rust, but it's still salvageable. So let me see this one. Yeah, okay. This one kind of makes sense. So watch, see? Closed, open, open. The second the detent wheel goes, bang. Open, closed, closed. See how that's open here? So I suspect this should be open as well. So we're going to make it open. And then test it. And I'm going to clean them too. I'm going to use the, yeah, so that makes a little bit more sense. All right, let me get the Scotch-Brite. And again, I'm going to clean them. Okay. Just hold this down. Just holding this down by hand. Put this on. All right. Okay, seems to be better, that's for sure. I'll do the next one. I'm going to change that spring. And I'll clean the units. I think they've all been cleaned anyway, so then we'll get on to the coin mech. And I'll see if I want to... I'll show you how this works anyways, but I'll see if I want to undo what they did with that screw, because I kind of like the idea of a free play. Oh, we just saw something here as well. Wire that... it's kind of weird that broke where it did, but we'll fix that as well. Fix things that you see that are, I don't want to say odd, but things that are off as you go, because if you say, yeah, I'll get back to that later, you might forget. Okay, I'll bring it back. There we go. So that should be game over. Those were the balls. Now, if I press the button at the beginning of the game, the score reel should reset and the game should start. Okay. Yeah, working on the credit unit. So it's all gummy. You can see, you know, people have sprayed stuff in it. And we're going to figure out, we're going to clean it up. And we're going to figure out how these switches work. So the first thing I'm going to do is let me spray some cleaner on it. We'll let it dry off. And then we'll get our bearing straight and I'll bring you back. I have no easy way of mounting the camera, but I'll figure something out. Okay, here's what I believe is going on with this thing. Okay, that one is maximum coins. So this thing goes up to 15, so 15 credits. And somebody put in this Canadian special in there. And what happens is when you reach the maximum number of coins, what it does, it looks like it opens up this switch here. Okay. Now, right now, there's no credits in it, so both these switches are open. Okay. So the second you put a credit in, so let me just replicate that. So credit in is this one. Okay. That should see one. Okay. Now here's the fun that should be happening. I'm thinking both of these need to be closed. Okay, because as you keep adding quarters or credits or nickels, dimes, see that one's still closed. Saying, yeah, we still have some capacity for some more. Now they're both closed. Okay, why would this one close if this one was open? And they're on the same, they're basically tied together, right? So let me try closing, because then what happens is, okay, we keep adding credits. Sorry guys, this is like extremely difficult. And once we max out, there was a switch down here I took off just for ease of things. So once we max out, see that switch just opened? And these ones are closed. Okay, then when we start backing out, so as we start taking credits away, it starts to reverse itself. So this now is closed, and these two should be closed, but anyway, we'll keep going. Okay, we're out of credits now. Both should be open. which this one is. You can barely see that it's open. Okay.
I figure out a little later why this thing was set with the screw the way it is, because of a relay that's not working. So the operator or whoever repaired this before jammed that screw in there so that it would stay on continuous free play. So in the real world, I would go through the exercise of completely disassembling this unit, making sure everything was perfect. But again, it's a great game, but I'm not going to spend my life on it, that's for sure. So anyway, we're going to get it operational, and let's continue. I'm going to cut the video off here, and we're going to get to a part 2 because this is already pretty long. And like, share, subscribe, do all that fantastic stuff. We will see you in part 2, and it's just going to jump right into it when we do part 2. So we'll see you soon.